Reformatting card. Scan your items and place them in the bagging area.
Weigh your Fuji apples.
Do you have any coupons? Enter your phone number or scan your coupons. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Ride Home podcast. My name is Caitlin.
And my name is Abby.
We're switching it up again.
Change up.
I gotta shake into this a little bit.
I know. You're a little nervy.
Whew, I'm a little nervous. For second time starting the podcast, kind of nervous. All right, so this week we are covering my throwback episode, which came to me basically in a dream.
Out of thin air.
Literally out of thin air, which is exactly how I predicted it was going to come to me. Because I knew if I stopped thinking about what movie I wanted to watch, it was just going to like click into my head one day. And I genuinely couldn't tell you how this came to me.
Yeah.
I think I was just like watching TikToks and I was like, oh, fuck, remember that movie?
It just like literally appeared.
And then I picked it. So this week we are going to be talking about the 2006 drama Notes on a Scandal, which you have not seen before.
Not only have I not seen before, I had no idea what it was about. I have never seen a trailer. I have never seen clips. I went into this about as blind as a human being could go into a movie.
Yeah. Which is interesting. I feel like besides Movie Mystery Mondays, it's very rare that we watch a movie that we are completely blind.
Yeah. I mean, usually if you're going to see a film in theaters, you've at least seen like one trailer.
Right. Or seen something about it online, or somebody said something about it.
And if you're streaming something, often like, you know how it'll auto start a trailer? Like often if you're searching for something to stream, you'll auto watch a trailer, or the synopsis will be on the page while you're searching for a movie. So unless you do that like Netflix option where it's just like play me something, really we don't go into any movies blind.
No
anymore.
Really not at all. And I was so happy. I didn't think you had seen this movie because this movie came out in 2006. I haven't seen this movie for a long time, but I will say I think I've seen this movie at least 10 times.
Oh my god.
Probably more.
So your Notes on a Scandal stan.
I am a Notes on a Scandal stan. I think I discovered it when I was in college. I don't even know how I came upon it. I think I just got it in like a DVD like bargain bin or something. And I was like, well, it's Cate Blanchett.
Like the Walmart bins that are like $3.99.
Yeah. And I was like, well, let's see. And then I watched it. I was like, whoa, okay. So we picked Notes on a Scandal. Should I go ahead and start with a bio and...
Yeah, let's kick it off.
All right, let's go.
And just a warning, as always for our throwback episodes, we will be talking about spoilers. So if you haven't seen Notes on a Scandal and you plan on seeing it and don't want spoilers, go watch it and then join us.
Exactly. Okay, as I said before, this movie came out in 2006, which, for context, is 17 years ago.
You want to know why that makes me upset? I started my senior year of high school in 2006.
Yeah.
That's why I'm upset.
I'm also upset.
I'm angry about that.
I'm really angry, and I felt very old when I looked this up to see where it was streaming, and I was like, wait, 2006? It's wild. All right. So this came out in 2006.
Weird.
It is directed by Richard Eyre. Who, upon a quick Google search, looks like he's mostly just directed like strictly British films.
Yeah, I feel like I'd like heard his name before, but I couldn't place anything. And when I looked at his IMDb page like halfway through the movie, all I saw was that he had directed another movie with Judi Dench. Okay. So he's Judi Dench's guy.
Okay, apparently so.
How funny would it be if he only directed movies with Judi Dench?
Literally, that would be so... Which, like, what a niche.
I know.
What a niche gig.
I mean, I can respect that,
though.
She's
Dame Judi Dench. All right. So, it's directed by Richard Eyre. And it stars Cate Blanchett, Judi Dench, and Bill Nighy. also Juno Temple, who we know from Ted Lasso.
Dude, and she is so young in it.
She's so little.
She has like the little like baby fat on her face still. And so when she walked in the frame, and she has curly hair too, which threw me off. I knew that she was in it because the credits are at the beginning of the movie. But it took me a second because I was expecting an adult. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I thought she was older than us.
So she is 30. I just looked it up. She's 34.
Okay, so she's our age, basically.
So when this movie came out, she was 17, and so were we.
That's insane.
Well, I was like 15 when this movie came out.
It's crazy. She looks, I mean, exactly the same. Just with like, you know, chubby teenager cheeks. Like,
right, and super curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a quick little Google synopsis. Barbara Covett, a veteran teacher at St. George's, senses a kindred spirit in Sheba Hart, the school's new art teacher. The younger woman's charisma intensely draws in the older, and the two become friends. Then Barbara learns of Sheba's affair with a teenage student and becomes the keeper of the explosive secret. Something also to note about this movie. Cate Blanchett and Judi Dench were both nominated for Golden Globes and Oscars for their performance in this movie.
Okay. Did either of them win? Or
no one won. Neither of them won. I don't believe this movie won any, but it was nominated for quite a few BAFTAs, Golden Globes, and Oscars for some acting performances.
Cool.
So something to note. Again, unsure of how I developed an obsession with this film probably 15 years ago.
I get it.
Yeah. It's like a psychological
it's your
thriller.
Thing. Like, it's like your genre of book.
Yes, exactly.
Like, you like women doing fucked up things in the shadows.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, that's a thing that you have like a niche for.
Yeah, because it's something that keeps you on your toes. And it's also like how we've talked about women's obsession with true crime. It's like something so far off base from like your normal day-to-day mundane life that it's just like it captivates you because it's so wild and extravagant.
Well, and I also feel like there's something really like specifically interesting about like female crime or like female drama or female thriller where like Misery, for example, there's this like specific, I don't know what it is, like this little new ping, like this new like flavor that it brings, because I feel like male crime is so violence based and it's just more like impulsive and just quick and violent. And I feel like stories that tell crimes or fucked up stories about women are more psychological and they really like get under your skin type of thing. So I completely understand why you're into this. Like I 100% get it.
Yes. So we already know that I was previously obsessed with this movie. Haven't watched it in a long time. So I'm going to kick it off to you.
Yeah.
Because I am dying to know what you thought about Notes on a Scandal.
Well, we literally ended the movie and I was like, do you just want to record like immediately, like right now?
And I was like, yes, because I need to know. I need to know. What did you think?
I'm going to start off first by saying something. I'm going to kind of give this out of order.
Okay.
There were problems with it.
Sure.
And I think my main problem with it was the ending.
Okay.
However, I absolutely loved it.
Yay.
Yeah,
okay.
It was great.
Awesome.
It was something that held my interest for the whole time. And to be completely honest with you, I'm not sure if I would have loved it as much if I knew that she was going to have a relationship with her student, because it was actually genuinely shocking to me.
Yes.
Like the scene where Covett, which what a name for her character.
Yes. I know. A
little on the nose, but
little
still,
bit. It's okay.
The script was a little on the nose, which I'm gonna say is like one of its errors, and we can go into that later. But I will say that when she first discovers that they're having a relationship and it's in the midst of this Christmas concert and she's trying to find Sheba, the soundtrack is ominous as shit.
Yeah.
And it's the first time in the movie that it's ominous. It kind of just starts out very almost just a typical British character piece type movie where like I wasn't really sure where it was going, to be completely honest with you. And so when that ominous music started playing and I saw a light on in her classroom, I don't even know if I said something out loud, but I literally just like in my mind was like, oh shit, she's having sex with a student. And like I just immediately knew which student it was because they had like focused on him earlier. But it's still like I didn't assume that was what was going to happen. Sure. That moment was a genuine like shock, and I felt like that like pit feeling in my stomach where I was like, oh no, especially because I love Cate Blanchett. She looks gorgeous in this movie. Yeah. And so I think, like I was saying before about women committing crimes, it's that twisting feeling because you like them and you're attracted to them, and then they do something like that.
It's so subversive, right? Like it's just like she really was beautiful in
gorgeous
this. Oh my god. I kind of like forgot, and she is beautiful, but like in this movie particularly, she's like very ethereal. I did look up the ages of her and the boy's character because I was just curious. Oh no. She was 37 when this came out, and he was 17. In real life. So she was 20 years his elder.
They had to sign some parental paperwork for that one.
Yeah.
I think maybe in the UK 16 is an adult though.
I think so, because they can drink when they're 16, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
So maybe they didn't, but...
Maybe, but anyways, so she was, you know, almost our age, a little bit older, but she looked great.
She looked gorgeous. If you told me she was 28 in this movie, I would have believed you.
Yeah, and I think
she looked amazing.
And I think you're right about, especially when it's a woman who looks like Cate Blanchett and acts like her. Like she's so graceful, like we talked about in Tar.
Warm.
She's so graceful and warm and ethereal, and she was an art teacher in this movie, so she had that kind of like loose boho feel to her, and she was somebody that you instantly liked.
She was like the teacher that we all wanted. Yeah. Like I had a bunch of like curmudgeons and creepy old guys as my teachers. And like, super shout out real quick. I know she doesn't listen to this podcast. My English teacher was great. She was this cozy old lady. Yeah. That was just the best. Yeah. But most of my teachers were just like, ugh.
Old fuddy-duddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every gay kid loves their English teacher. Yeah, what is that?
That's a thing.
I don't know what that's
certainly
about.
There's something about like gays and English teachers shaking hands,
holding hands. Yeah.
But I think you're right. Like it's so like fucks with your head. Yeah, because it's like, man, she's so cool and beautiful and awesome, and I like her, but now she's doing this really fucked up thing.
Literally, in my head I was like, oh no, not you. Yeah. You know, and I felt personally disappointed in her, which like I think that is my number one disappointment, is like when teachers especially commit crimes like this, because I have a lot of educators in my life. You work in a school, and I feel like I have kind of like an inside look of like how schools operate and how much trust kids put into their teachers. Dude. And how like, you know, you as a educator have this immense responsibility because you see these kids more often than they see their own parents. Yep. And for someone to abuse that responsibility is, in my mind, I know this sounds fucked up, but in my mind, it's worse than like a random stranger off the street. No, absolutely. A kid.
Because it's like the ultimate power imbalance. Yes. Yeah. And it's the ultimate taking advantage of.
1,000%.
Like a vulnerable person. Yeah. And it's really, 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 like, I completely agree. Like, it's worse than just like a random pedo on the street.
1,000%.
Yes, that's also horrible and traumatizing. But like, this is someone that you know, you're connected with, you trust to protect you, you look up to, and they are supposed to keep you safe. Like, that is the thing that I tell all kids at my schools. Like, our number one job is to keep you safe. Yeah. And that's literally the opposite of what she did. Yeah. So it is like, it's just like,
it fucks you up.
And it happened pretty early on in the movie, I feel like, the reveal. And also I feel like I'm taking over now, but I'm going to give it back to you in a second. Yeah. But I also feel like the juxtaposition of it happening at Christmas time was also really unsettling, because it was like the rest of the kids were singing like a hip hop version of Joyful, We Adore You.
She was leaving the scene in Love Actually. Yes. And then like walking in on a literal crime.
Yeah, against a child.
Yeah. And so I literally, like, in the pit of my stomach was just like, holy shit. But I think what was really interesting about this movie as it develops is learning more about Barbara's character and her background of also abusing people.
Yeah.
And also the background of Sheba and her husband. And I know that like at one point in the movie, like you even said out loud, you were like, circle of abuse, because he took advantage of her as a young student. Her husband did. And so it was just a really interesting movie that certainly like it felt far-fetched at times, particularly on Barbara's end. I felt like the main story between Cate Blanchett, the student, and her husband felt very like I'm sure it's happened thousands of times, unfortunately. But Barbara's character was a little over the top, and I think it took me a second to connect with her very prose like delivery of the voiceover. But I reminded myself halfway through the movie, when I got a little annoyed with it, that like she is writing in a journal.
Yeah.
And so she is embellishing on things and often making shit up too. And so the fact that there are these kind of poetic statements and these grand phrases, and I wrote down a line halfway through where she was like, it's like a novice confessing to Mother Superior. And like I got a little tired of it, but then again, once I reminded myself that it is like literally called Notes on a Scandal, and it's about her journal and creating this like weird narrative that's like there's 3 different stories happening where it's like the actual story, what's happening for Cate Blanchett, like making up this weird false reality where she's friends with somebody that's actually just holding blackmail over her head.
Yeah.
And then another reality, which is the reality that Barbara is making up in her journal. And the 3 realities coming together was just a fucked up experience to watch.
Right.
But really, really cool. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
I'm so happy to hear that. And I think that's what I loved so much about this movie the first time I saw it, and why I couldn't get enough of it. Because it's like 3 individually fucked up stories, and like you said, the convergence of the 3 is like so much more fucked up than just the 3 stories on their own. And I actually do agree with you, especially upon rewatching it. I do think some of the writing was a little cringy.
Yeah. But also that's kind of the time.
I was gonna say it is the time.
Kind of like the script from Interstellar. Like back in the 2000s, late 90s, scripts were a little over the top.
Yeah.
They were a little embellished. And even like one of my favorite movies, literally of all time, Juno.
Yeah.
If you watch it back, it's really overwritten.
Yeah. That's the content that was coming out at the time. So I think it does kind of fit. Also, it's British. So I feel like that's kind of adds another layer of just
And it was very British.
Very British.
Everything about it was very British.
Everything about it was very British, and I love that too.
In like a delightful way.
Yeah, exactly. like you said, it was like, I don't know, it had some like sort of Love Actually feels to it, but like
fucked up Love Actually.
Really fucked up. You know what I mean? And so I think also something that I love about this movie, and what I originally loved about it, and still I'm happy to see that it held up, are Cate Blanchett and Judi Dench's performances, and also their chemistry together was really spectacular.
I'm gonna say it. If Meryl Streep is the Meryl Streep of her time, Cate Blanchett is the Cate Blanchett of her time.
Yes.
Like Cate Blanchett is the Meryl Streep of Gen X.
100%.
You know, we're kind of seeing who's going to be that person for the millennials and Gen Z like era. Like if it's going to be Saoirse Ronan, if it's going to be Florence Pugh.
Right.
But really and truly, I'm just going to straight up say it. I think Cate Blanchett is the single best actress in that era and in her age group.
I think so too. And she is just so like she's just amazing, and she was so good in this movie,
dude. The scene, I'm just like, I love it so much. I know it's like it's really easy to love a screaming scene, but the scene where she confronts Barbara about the notebook, I loved that scene.
I know.
Both of them were great, but Cate Blanchett specifically was iconic in that scene.
Yeah.
And I know that like we're not supposed to like her because like she's a horrible pedophile.
Right.
But when she's talking about how in her journal, how in Barbara's journal, she wrote that they invited her to summer with them in Dordogne. And she was like, we didn't invite you to Dordogne. And Barbara goes, you specifically said if I was in France, I should drop in. And the delivery from Cate Blanchett when she goes, we didn't mean it.
Yeah, she was like, oh, we didn't
mean it. It was hilarious in such a tense moment.
Yeah.
And for something to be funny in such a heavy movie and in such an intense moment, and to also be like relatable in that moment where you're just like, dude, like I was just saying, like, you should join us.
Being nice.
Yeah.
Like, we are literally just putting on pleasantries for you because you're an old hag. Like,
you're an old hag that's blackmailing me.
Yeah. Like, I have to be nice to
you.
She really doesn't have a choice at this point but to be nice to her. And she's so exhausted by having to be nice to her that she's just like, dude, we didn't mean it. Like, we didn't actually want you to come on our family vacation, Barbara.
Which, like, in that moment, again, like, you have to remember that this woman is, you know, she has done an incredibly fucked up thing. But in that scene, because Barbara is also an abuser, it's crazy because there's no one in this movie to root for.
No.
Bill Nighy is an abuser. Cate Blanchett is an abuser. And Judi Dench is an abuser.
Yeah.
And so, like, you're literally like, the only person I'm rooting for is Ben with Down syndrome because he's great. And I hope his play was awesome. I wish we had seen more.
I know. He was the one great. Line we saw him deliver, he was adorable and did great.
So I was rooting for Ben. That's the only person I'm rooting for.
Ben.
But I think there is something special about a cast that is so likable and so enjoyable to watch playing characters that are deplorable and being able to pull that off, because if you have completely unredeemable characters, you can't connect with them at all, but you see why they make the choices they make, which is not an excuse for their behavior, but it's you understand them as a character. And I thought they did a really good job developing their characters to the point that you weren't just nauseated by their existence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even Bill Nighy, I also thought did a great job.
Yeah.
They kind of gloss over it more, I feel like, and they don't really reveal that until the end that he was her professor. And then I also thought the timing of that revelation was very good, because it was sort of like everything was unraveling and he had just found out that his wife was sleeping with one of her children's students. And then it's revealed that he...
Right. You know what I mean? That one line when he finds that out and he says, we all think about sleeping with young people. It's just we don't actually do it. And I was like, no, we don't.
No, we don't. Oh,
sir.
No.
Don't put my name in your mouth in this moment, sir. And so in that moment, I started to think about like their age gap. And I was like, oh, fuck. And then on top of that, her daughter is like replicating what her parents have in dating an older guy, and her parents are like weirdly okay with it, and they like support it even though it's very toxic, and you can tell that it's toxic.
Yes, but they have to support it, because if they don't, then they're basically hypocrites. You know what I mean? Because they are doing their daughter is doing what they did. And so it's kind of like they've sort of started to make allowances for things that as a society we pretty much have said is not okay.
Right.
It is interesting to see how complex all of these people are. I mean, this movie is an hour and a half.
Which that's is so impressive that they were able to do that.
Wild to me.
Yeah.
Each of these characters individually are extremely dynamic and complex because, like you said, they are all deplorable people doing horrible things, making horrible choices, abusive people with mental illness, basically.
Yeah. Especially Barbara, mentally ill.
Yeah. Oh, that's a narc right there.
That is a big time narc.
Woo! I feel like Judi Dench's character was like really hard to watch and cringy. And it was like, I think we've all experienced like someone who's that manipulative maybe. And so I think that part was really hard to watch. But even her,
which I think that's an underrepresented form of abuse, is the abuse of a friend.
Yeah.
And that happens more than I think is shown in movies. And we often see abuse within romantic relationships or abuse within non-consenting relationships, whether that's like physical abuse or sexual abuse.
Right.
But we rarely see how fucking twisted it is to abuse a friend.
Yeah.
And to either like blackmail a friend or to create a false reality for a friend, whatever it is. That was a really interesting dynamic to watch. But I agree, even though there's like nobody to root for in this movie, it's still just every character is so interesting that you just want to see it through.
Yeah.
I will say there actually is another character to root for. Stephen Connolly's mom.
Yes. Oh
when
my God.
Mrs. Connolly busts in and starts throwing hands and is beating the shit out of Cate Blanchett on her staircase, you and I were like pumping our fists, like rooting for her.
You go, as every Irish mom should.
I thought that's a good Irish woman should.
Yes, and it's true. And it's
like, as like, we don't have kids, but if we were parents and we found out our kid was being abused by a teacher, 1,000% we would go beat them up.
I would pop off.
Yeah. I know you would bust through the door and call them a slut and slap them in the face.
Yes,
like
she was calling her a bitch and a whore and beating her up on her staircase.
We were literally like, as you should, Mrs. Connolly.
Yes, please. And all of it was so authentic to how I feel like all of this actually would play out, that it almost felt like a docudrama. You know what I mean? And it's funny, when you look this movie up, one of the top Google searches is Notes on a Scandal based on a true story.
I would believe that, yeah.
Because I could see why you would think that. Yeah. I mean, this could all actually go down like this. And I think it's so impressive that they made all of that happen in an hour and a half.
I know. I will say my one critique outside of the kind of overwriting of Barbara's character, I didn't love the ending. I thought it was a little clumsy, and I didn't get the satisfaction I wanted. And I think I really wanted there to be I wanted someone to be dead at the end of this. I don't know why, but like, I literally was just like, whether it's Barbara killing Cate Blanchett killing Barbara, Stephen killing Barbara, like, whatever it was, I wanted someone to be dead. And I know maybe that's like melodramatic of me, but like,
I feel like it would have fit the movie.
I felt like someone should have died. Like, someone should have paid the ultimate price for their fucked up shit. And I think that might not be the answer. I'm not saying that it would have made it like a perfect movie.
Yeah.
I think it would have excited me more, for sure. Yeah. And I think it fizzled out. There was this incredible scene where she confronts Barbara about the notebook that we talked about before. And then she goes out to the paparazzi and is just basically like, here I am. Like, here I fucking am, guys. And, you know, we hear about her sentence, which is an incredibly short sentence for having sex with a kid.
Yeah, 10 months.
That's insane. If that's the law in England, y'all need to fix that.
Y'all need to look into that.
I mean, Jesus Christ. But anyway, I feel like the sentence like upset me, because I was like, I thought she was going to go away for a lot longer than that. Her going back to her husband giving her that like kind of knowing smile of like, yeah, I'll take you back. Right. I was just kind of like, oh my God. Yeah. And then on top of that, Barbara being back on her bullshit at the end and trying to lure in another young woman. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that Barbara would be back on her bullshit. I didn't mind that scene as much, but I felt like Cate Blanchett's story really fizzled out. I also wish we had seen more of Stephen after he confronts Barbara, when he basically like threatens her and like he chases her into her house. Like, he's going to beat the shit out of her. Yeah. And then we never see him again.
Yeah, and then he's gone.
And I felt like either I wanted to see him, you know, expressing that anger, or I wanted to see him confront Cate Blanchett, or I wanted to see him like watching her on TV. Whatever it was, I felt like they could have wrapped his story up better also. Barbara, it makes sense that she's back on her bullshit, because she really doesn't ever show any remorse for doing the shit that she did. And so it makes sense that she would go straight into her next victim, basically.
Yes.
Whatever it was, I don't know. I just was craving something else at the end, and I'm not 100% sure how to fix it. But I think that's my major concern other than the script.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that's super valid, and I think those are things that I also wish would have happened. Like, I think those things should have been wrapped up better. There should have been a more dramatic ending. Like, I agree with you, because I think the rest of the movie is shocking and twisted and dramatic, and then I kind of agree with you, it does fizzle out, and it is kind of disappointing because there was a lot of potential there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It felt like we were building towards something.
Yeah.
And the moment that was the climax, which was this confrontation scene that we've been talking about, although it was a very wonderful climax, it felt like you could have ended the movie with her screaming at the paparazzi and it wouldn't have changed the movie at all.
True. Very true.
Like, everything that happens after that scene is almost superfluous.
Yeah.
I'm just going to pretend that the confrontation scene is the end. And
yeah,
I'm just
just
going to
pretend it stopped there.
Yeah.
I think even though the writing was lacking and the story kind of struggled a little bit at the end, I can completely remember why I loved this movie so much and why I used to watch it so much, because it is really a fascinating unraveling to watch. And again, Cate Blanchett is just absolutely stunning in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, she just ate.
Yeah. She was so good.
Absolutely ate.
She's the best. Man.
She is the best.
She's so great. I
She's
love
the
her.
best. And I am so happy that you liked this movie. I knew you would, because
you had a good feeling.
Objectively, it's a good story.
Yeah.
It's really fucked up,
Yeah.
and it's really interesting, and there's really good acting. I thought the score is beautiful.
Yeah. The score is very effective as well.
Yeah.
It wasn't just pretty, like it was a pretty score for sure, but it really captured moments with the music, and I really appreciated the score.
I thought so too. And I just think that it is a hidden gem, dude.
Yeah.
I thought this was like a really perfect little throwback
Yeah.
for us to see, and I'm so happy that it was something you had never seen before.
And so different from Hook, which
so different.
I gotta
from
be
Hook.
honest, I thought you were gonna go with rom-com.
You know, that was too easy.
Yeah.
I was
shocked.
Yeah.
But it was a good shock.
I was leaning towards rom-com initially, and that's kind of the ones that were kind of cycling through my head. But once this popped into my head, I was like, no, this is the one.
This is it.
And it's so interesting because I feel like I want people to go watch this, because if you like Cate Blanchett, if you like fucked up
True crime
stories,
yeah, even though it's not true, but
it's not true, but it has the feeling of that.
Yeah.
Please go watch this, because I think you will like it.
Also, if you like really character-driven stories.
Yeah, exactly. And it's an hour and a half. It's a quick watch.
Oh my God.
A really quick watch. Should we do popcorn scores?
Yeah, absolutely. We know what yours is probably.
Yeah, mine is a large.
Yeah.
It just is really something to watch. I think it's really something to just experience. I think the acting's great. I think there's just so many good things that outweigh the couple of bad things. So for me, it's a large.
I think it's also a large.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pop off.
There are plenty of larges that are not perfect.
Sure.
You know, a movie doesn't have to be perfect to be a large. It doesn't have to be
100%.
perfect to be. And for our rating scale, a large is something that you would consider a 4 or 5 star movie, or an A and beyond.
Right.
This is more than a B.
Oh yeah.
Movie.
For sure.
I am in awe of their performances. Everyone across the board, even the boy was great in it. The music was great. I thought most of the script was great. The acting alone would get this a large for me.
Truly.
But I thought the story as well was just super gripping. And honestly, the star of the show was Portia.
Yes. My God. Portia.
Rest in peace, Portia.
R.I.P. Portia.
My favorite thing is that this entire story unravels because a cat dies.
It's true.
I don't know. There's just something so on the nose about an old spinster's cat passing away and sending her over the edge.
Sending her off the deep end, and her just being like, well, I'm going to fuck everybody's
This
life up
grumpy old
now.
lesbian is just mad.
All she had was her cat, and now the cat's gone, so let's fuck shit up. How real and true is that?
Pop off, Judi Dench.
Yes, we understand.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Portia.
Rip Portia.
that does it for us. Thank you for showing me this movie.
You are so welcome.
I really enjoyed it. It was a great movie.
I think I forgot that this movie existed for a little bit. And I'm happy I remembered it.
I've enjoyed Throwback August. I think we'll
Me too.
try to do more throwbacks. I know some people have been... I have gotten a few messages that we still should do The Godfather.
Okay.
I'll consider it.
I'm open to it.
Okay, we're open to it.
I feel like we're going to watch The Godfather before we die. Like, we're gonna one day be like, we should probably just watch it.
Probably be today. Yeah.
So... why not do an episode on it?
But we are going to finish up Throwback August with this episode. And luckily, there are some movies coming out in September that we are excited to see. So keep an eye on our Instagram for our next episode. Until then, go watch Notes on a Scandal. It's on Prime.
Yes, it is on Prime. You can rent it. Actually, okay, it is on Prime. And when I Googled it, it said you could rent it for $3.99, but it's on sale right now for like $170.
Oh my God, even better.
Yeah, it was like less than $2. So go watch it. Go rent it right now. Watch it. Please message us and tell us what you think about it. Yeah. I really want to know everybody's thoughts if you watch it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, everybody, have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on the ride home.